Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today is to crack open a legal case file that is so complex it really reads more like a psychological thriller.
It absolutely does.
We're going deep into the Hopwood and Dunsmore Ferris investigation. It's a saga that, it began with what seemed like a standard missing child report, but it's just quickly unschooled.
It became this devastating history involving alleged child abduction, a really desperate surrogacy conflict, a fatal accident.
And just layers upon layers of deceit.
Exactly. This is the kind of material that really challenges our understanding of truth. We've got competing documents, we have conflicting timelines, and motivations that are just rooted in this profound trauma.
So our goal here is to extract the key insights from this stack of sources to show you how one simple police inquiry in a quiet corner of Spain just exposed this web, a web that spanned 2 continents and years of buried guilt.
Let's set the stage. We begin in Mentilla de Mar. It's a peaceful Spanish fishing town.
Right, and this is the place where a woman named Lauren Hopwood had built what she called her oasis. She was living this very quiet life, working tables at a local restaurant, raising her toddler son, Sam.
And she had this kind, constant neighbor named Gabe, who was, for all intents and purposes, family. Everything in her life was deliberately calm. It was safe.
And that bubble of safety pops with just startling speed. The sources detail the sudden, really dramatic arrival of the Policia Local.
Yeah, it's a chilling scene. Lauren and Gabe are just playing cards, and then suddenly there's this glare of headlights and the slam of car doors. It's Officer Juan Alvarez and his colleague, Rodriguez, uniformed and armed, standing right there on her doorstep.
In that moment, it just confirms Lauren's deepest fear. Alvarez asks for Senora Hopwood, and he wastes no time at all. He says they're there because they are investigating a missing English boy named Samuel.
And this is the initial hook for you, the listener, and it's the devastating realization for Lauren. The core conflict is this. The UK police, working on a report from the missing boy's parents, had specifically given the Spanish police Lauren's name.
Wow.
So she is immediately, and without any doubt, the prime suspect in the abduction of this boy 15 months prior. This is where it all officially begins.
Okay, let's unpack this right now. The pressure on Lauren in that doorway must have been just immense. I mean, she's trying to hold on to her cover story.
She is. She's presenting herself as just a working mother. I rent the house, I wait tables at La Roca and Miramar, I've been here for 18 months.
She's projecting this composure, but inside, she knows. She knows the game is up.
It's a beautifully contained, really high-stakes scene. Alvarez and Rodriguez are professional, but they are firm, and they immediately move to the crucial detail.
The documentation.
The documentation for the boy. Lauren provides Sam Hopwood's birth certificate and his passport.
And this is where the first critical discrepancy, the one that triggers everything, is revealed.
It is. Her documents show Sam Hopwood has a date of birth of January 4, 2022.
And her explanation for that.
She explains that this date was when he was about 3 weeks old, and she cites a planned family trip, a plan to move to Spain permanently. It sounds plausible enough on the surface.
But Alvarez isn't buying it.
Not at all. He's quick to highlight the issue. He confirms the missing boy in England has the same Christian name, Samuel. But the date and the circumstances, they just don't align with the report from the UK parents.
The parents who had provided her name.
Exactly. So this detail, the different documented dates of birth, it's the first piece of, undeniable forensic evidence that suggests deceit.
Gabe, her neighbor, he sees the rising panic and tries to intervene. He tries to inject some logic into the situation.
He does. He asks the officers, how many little boys named Samuel do you think there are in the world? Trying to downplay it.
But the officers are just following instructions.
That's all it is. They've been told to find a specific woman and a specific child, and, well, they have found both.
Gabe's protective instinct is, it's touching, but it's ultimately futile against a multinational investigation.
It really is. And Lauren, she recognizes the severity of it all. She tells Gabe to stay with Sam if she gets arrested.
And she manages to stall them.
For a moment, she agrees to come to the station on Friday afternoon, claiming she needs time to arrange childcare.
But the sources make it crystal clear. That was a lie. It was just a calculated delay.
Oh, absolutely. She realized that her life in Mentilla de Mar, that oasis she built to escape her trauma, was irreversibly compromised the moment those headlights hit her kitchen window.
And that's it. She's gone.
Precisely. Within 2 weeks, she's gone. This leads to her immediate flight up to the mountains, to Gabe's grandparents' remote cabin near Cuesca.
She's trying to disappear into the Spanish countryside, assuming, that the police will just focus on the coast.
That seems to be the logic.
Oh,
And when she's isolated, the paranoia really takes over. She's so convinced the authorities are tracking her that she initially refuses to answer her best friend Anna's phone calls.
she thinks the phone is tapped.
She's terrified of it. When she finally connects with Anna back in England, the true nature of the UK investigation starts to emerge.
And this detail is fascinating because it shows how basic investigative tools can bridge that huge geographical gap.
It's so true. Anna reveals the police found Lauren by tracking her old Instagram account.
No way.
Yes, they accessed archived holiday photos and used those to question Anna, confirming the connection between Lauren and England. The digital trail is what broke her carefully constructed anonymity.
So her past literally came back to find her.
It did. And Anna details the full allegation being presented by the UK police. That Lauren abducted a baby belonging to someone she had met the summer before she left England.
And how are they framing it?
They're framing it all under this vague but legally very serious umbrella of a surrogacy agreement gone wrong.
And Lauren's response to that?
Her immediate response is pure, visceral denial. She just says, "He's my son, Anna."
But the word abduction has to be terrifying.
It is. She knows she needs to engage. She can't just run anymore. So she agrees to speak with Anna's lawyer friend, Sarah Kellerman, who is a criminal defense lawyer.
And this marks the transition, right, from evasion in Spain to actually preparing for a legal fight back in the UK.
That's the turning point. She's no longer a ghost in the mountains. She's about to become a defendant.
It's just incredible how quickly her perfect, fragile world dissolved, all because the names and the timelines matched up just enough for the police to connect those dots.
That's the nature of deceit, when it's built on a foundation of trauma. When you're running from a past as profound as Lauren's, you leave undeniable evidence like matching names and an old social media footprint that can bring everything crashing down.
Now we shift focus to the UK, where Sarah Kellerman, the defense lawyer, starts filtering the official police narrative back to Lauren. And this is where we properly meet the other child, Samuel Dunsmore Ferris.
The official records are absolutely critical here. The UK authorities confirmed that the missing boy, Samuel Dunsmore Ferris, was officially reported missing in early January 2023. His official birth record states he was born on February 14, 2022, Valentine's Day, at Woodley Ridge Hospital, and he was registered to his parents, Hope Dunsmore and Andrew Ferris.
This 6-week discrepancy is what the police seized on immediately. Lauren's documents claim a January 4th birth for her son, Sam Hopwood.
And the police strongly suspect Lauren's birth certificate for Sam Hopwood is fraudulent.
A forgery.
Essentially, yes, a forgery used to mask the identity of Samuel Dunsmore Ferris.
And Sarah Kellerman has to make Lauren understand just how serious this is.
She does. And she doesn't use soft language. She outlines the maximum penalty for child abduction, which is up to 7 years, but she also raises the possibility of human trafficking charges.
Wait, hold on. How does this jump to human trafficking? That seems like a really dramatic escalation for a case that's currently being framed as a surrogacy agreement gone wrong.
That's a fantastic question, and it really speaks to the police's obligation to investigate the absolute worst-case scenario.
Okay, I see.
Kellerman explains that in modern legal contexts, especially when you're involving infants who might cross borders, police are increasingly instructed to consider trafficking statutes.
If the transfer of the child is non-consensual.
Exactly. Non-consensual and non-sanctioned, particularly when you combine it with potential fraud, like a forged birth certificate. The police might speculate that Lauren was trying to sell the baby, given the context of adoption markets.
Even if that wasn't true.
Right, even if it's baseless. By raising this, Sarah is making sure Lauren understands the existential threat she is now facing.
The stakes just couldn't be higher, especially when you think about the child's welfare. If Sam is returned to the UK, social services will immediately get involved.
Oh, absolutely. Sarah details the whole safeguarding plan. Sam could go back to the Dunsmore Ferrises, but only after rigorous checks. He could go to a relative.
Or the worst-case scenario.
Or, worst of all for Lauren, he could be placed in temporary foster care. The profound worry here is that Sam has only ever known stability with Lauren and Gabe in Spain. Any sudden removal would be hugely detrimental to his development.
Now let's pivot to the UK side, and let's focus on Hope and Drew Dunsmore Ferris, because their story starts to crumble under police scrutiny long before Lauren is even brought back into custody.
The collapse starts with their neighbor, Jessica Brierley.
Just Brierley.
Yes, she is a crucial, if unintentional, witness. She performs osteopathy and is very familiar with the family at Flint Cottage.
Okay.
So when she hears the missing child report in January 2023, She calls the police with a massive contradiction.
What was the contradiction? What did she say?
Jess claims she hadn't seen the baby since the previous September.
September, but they reported him missing in January.
Exactly. Hope and Drew were reporting him missing in January, but Jess had already assumed the baby was gone for 4 months. She tells the operator she thought Hope had given him away, which is what Hope had previously led her to believe.
So Jess's call raises immediate suspicion. How can the baby suddenly be missing in January if he hasn't even been seen since September?
It instantly undermines Hope and Drew's credibility with the police.
So when DC Jasmine and PC Sally interview Hope and Drew, the officers already know they are being lied to about the timeline.
They do. Hope starts by trying to garner sympathy, and she details Sam's very vulnerable birth history.
Right, trying to set an emotional scene.
Yes, she describes Sam's precarious start. Born premature at 3 pounds 2 ounces, he was intubated, suffering from a hole in his heart, requiring 3 months in intensive care. It's a cold attempt to humanize their struggle and distract from the timeline discrepancy. She's painting herself as a desperate, suffering mother.
But the police push back, and they must have used Jess's account.
They do, and it forces a major admission. Drew steps in, trying to control the narrative damage, and he reveals the surrogacy cover story.
And what exactly is that?
This is their first admission of planned deceit. Drew tells the officers they used a fertility clinic, implanting their own embryo, which makes Sam biologically theirs. He claims that after Sam's difficult birth and lengthy ICU stay, they bonded with him and changed their minds about handing him over to the surrogate.
The surrogate being Lauren in this story.
Yes. He claims Lauren, the presumed surrogate, then came and took the baby later, angry about the broken agreement.
So this attempted cover story, it's meant to frame the event as more of a civil dispute, a consequence of a broken legal agreement, not an abduction.
That's the goal, but legally, it hits a wall, doesn't it?
It hits the most critical legal wall in UK surrogacy law, and this is a profound nugget of knowledge for you, the listener.
In the UK, regardless of whose embryo is used, the woman who gives birth is the child's legal mother. In this case, Hope gave birth to Sam.
So she was the legal mother, even though she and Drew used their own embryo. I think a lot of people wouldn't know that.
Absolutely. To legally transfer parenthood from the birth mother, who is Hope, to the intended parents, a parental order has to be granted by the court.
And let me guess.
Crucially, the sources confirm no parental order was made here. Therefore, legally, Hope and Drew were and remained Sam's legal parents.
So their story that they used a surrogate who then abducted their baby makes absolutely no legal sense.
Right.
Because they were the legal parents the entire time. They weren't fighting off a surrogate. They were fighting off a woman who took their baby.
Precisely. Drew's attempt to frame this as a surrogacy agreement gone wrong was designed to explain away Lauren's existence. But the real devastating legal takeaway is that if they had followed the law, they would have been protected. The police would have been seeking an abducted child belonging to them from the very start.
Instead, their lies created this massive confusion for the police,
Who now had to navigate whether this was abduction, fraud, or some kind of civil dispute complicated by the lies told to the neighbor, Jess.
It seems like they shot themselves in the foot legally by trying to hide something even bigger. And to understand what that bigger secret is, we have to rewind to the root of Lauren's trauma.
This section really requires us to slow down and dwell on the psychological devastation that fueled all of Lauren's actions. We go back 18 months to the fatal car crash that took her husband, Charlie Hopwood, and her infant son, the first Samuel Hopwood.
Lauren's account is chilling because it's just so incomplete. She wakes up in the car, then she's in the hospital with complete amnesia regarding the moments leading up to the collision. She has no memory of the impact itself.
And this inability to recall the event is the source of her paralyzing guilt. The collision experts tried to help her, explaining that the results were inconclusive.
They had a hypothesis, right?
They did. They hypothesized she swerved to avoid a wild animal, maybe a deer or a pheasant, on the country lane. They noted the setting sun may have delayed her perception response time to closer to 2 seconds, which would explain her inability to correct the swerve in time.
But having a scientific hypothesis doesn't erase the feeling of responsibility.
Not at all. Her mother insisted it was an accident, but Lauren carried this persistent, overwhelming, and just unshakable guilt because she couldn't prove she hadn't made a mistake.
And that guilt just anchored her physically and emotionally to the past.
It did. She was signed off work, struggling profoundly. The sources paint a really stark picture of her post-trauma life. Sleeplessness, uncontrolled anger, a reliance on painkillers, and living trapped in the before life.
The house with the perfect nursery.
The Victorian features, the beige and blue sofas. She was grieving not just the people, but the entire life she had lost.
So while Lauren is just drowning in this unaddressed grief, the Dunsmore Ferrises are experiencing a different kind of crisis that ultimately links their futures forever.
Yes, Drew confesses to Hope that he cheated on her with a work colleague named Sorcha.
When was this?
Drew's affair started around Christmas, and he attempts to rationalize it as an emotional need, claiming he felt indispensable to Sorcha and was drawn to her vulnerability.
It's a classic case of self-serving justification for infidelity.
It is. The affair ended when Sorcha left for Ireland on Christmas Eve to care for her sister following a stroke.
But Hope finds out.
Hope discovers the texts, and the stress immediately triggers premature labor at 32 weeks. This connection is so vital. Their marital trauma directly caused Sam's premature, precarious birth.
And Hope's reaction to this? To the betrayal.
It's remarkable. Despite the betrayal and the terrifying condition of their 3-pound, 2-ounce baby, she displays this immense resilience. She chooses to believe Drew's remorse, focusing on their shared future, their cottage, their antiques, their shared sense of surviving pain.
So she compartmentalizes.
She does. She sees their ability to withstand the crisis as the true measure of their marriage's strength. She really needed that belief system to survive those months in the NICU.
And here is where the two trauma streams just tragically collide, at Woodley Ridge Hospital.
Exactly. Lauren, struggling with her own memory gaps and obsession with her lost son, overhears some gym gossip. She learns that Hope's baby, Sam, was born on Valentine's Day 2022 at that very hospital.
The exact same hospital where she lost her own baby.
The location, the name, the timing. It wasn't just a coincidence. For Lauren, it became a symbol. It confirmed that this other Samuel, born in the same place where her Samuel died, was somehow the universe giving her a second chance. Or perhaps replacing what she had lost.
And this catalyzed her descent into fixation.
A total fixation.
Yeah.
She begins this calculated, highly deceitful investigation. She finds Hope online, who is a licensed psychotherapist, and approaches her under the false name Anna Wall, claiming she was seeking therapy after a late miscarriage.
This is not a crime of opportunity. This is a calculated, months-long stalking campaign.
That level of calculation is terrifying. It shows this wasn't an impulse crime, but a slow, deep emotional spiral. She needed to get close to this family to understand what they had.
So she goes to their house.
She visited Flint Cottage multiple times, befriending the neighbor Jess, the osteopath, and then the most chilling detail of all, she planted an AirPod in the downstairs cloakroom.
An AirPod? Why? What specific intelligence was she trying to gain with that?
She wasn't just gathering information. She was achieving this perverse form of intimacy. By placing the AirPod in the cloakroom, a quiet, discreet space, she could eavesdrop on Hope and Drew's most private conversations.
So she was listening to everything.
Everything. She was listening for clues, yes, but also for confirmation that their life was less perfect than hers had been. Or maybe confirmation of the dark secret that fuels her own guilt. She needed to know everything about the life that had, in her mind, replaced hers.
And that explains why the abduction was so precise. She had studied their schedules, their vulnerabilities, their arguments, all through that tiny microphone in the cloakroom.
Exactly. She gathered all the data necessary to execute her plan, and most importantly, she gathered the intelligence that would give her the ultimate leverage against Drew Ferris.
Let's move to the night of the abduction. The planning was meticulous. We know Drew is home watching TV, distracted, while Hope is conveniently at her core conditioning class.
A class Drew had, perhaps unknowingly, encouraged her to attend.
So Lauren knew their routine precisely.
She did. She crouched behind the shed, watching the flow of the house and the neighbor Jess. And her distraction technique was incredibly low-tech, but effective.
What was it?
A tennis ball secured inside a stocking, which she used to whack the bifold doors.
And the sound of the doors is enough to draw Drew outside to investigate?
It is. This gives Lauren the critical window she needs to slip inside.
The sources placed the timing precisely, right? It was 6:25 p.m.
Yes. She finds Sam asleep in the cot, straps him into a baby carrier under her coat, and makes her exit. But she doesn't escape unnoticed. She runs into Drew at the dining room doorway.
And this confrontation is the most crucial moment of the entire saga. Drew sees her, he sees the bulge under her coat, and he knows exactly what's happening.
And Lauren uses her intelligence to deploy the single perfect threat that just paralyzes him.
What does she say?
She tells him, "You won't call the police because if you call the police, they'll find out what you did. The shock that registers on Drew's face confirms that her stalker-level intelligence gathering paid off. He lets her walk out the door with his son.
So, what exactly did Drew do? We mentioned he witnessed or caused the fatal crash, but let's be specific about his culpability because this is the secret that kept him silent for 2 years.
The source material is unequivocal here. Drew was the driver of a powerful car, a Porsche, traveling down a narrow country lane. He decided to dangerously swing out to overtake a lorry.
An aggressive move.
A very aggressive maneuver.
Yeah.
And that forced Charlie and Lauren Hopwood's car, the one coming toward him, off the road and into the hedgerow, causing the fatal collision.
And he fled the scene.
He fled the scene. Crucially, Hope was screaming in the car. She was 6 months pregnant and in intense stress, which eventually triggered her premature labor. So Drew prioritized getting Hope to the hospital, refusing to stop and report the accident he had caused.
He left Charlie and the first Samuel to die.
He did. This act of flight made him legally culpable for the deaths and the cover-up. Lauren's threat was powerful because it was true. If he called the police, he would be charged with vehicular manslaughter and fleeing the scene of crime.
So when Hope returns to the empty cot, the immediate reality hits. Drew confesses that he saw Lauren take Sam, but couldn't call the police.
He couldn't. He feared she would reveal everything about the crash. This secret is the foundation of Lauren's power and the reason the missing persons case remained unsolved for 15 long months.
His guilt and fear were strong enough to sacrifice his son's immediate safety.
It's a shocking choice.
Fast forward 2 years, Lauren is eventually arrested at Heathrow when she returns to the UK. And Drew, seeing the charges mounting against her, makes this shocking false statement to the investigating officers, D.C. Hibbert and D.C. Foley.
He does, and it's driven by this deeply misguided sense of self-sacrifice. Drew claims that he and Lauren were actually in a relationship prior to the crash.
No relationship?
Yes, and that he had asked Lauren to leave the country with Sam. He intends his confession to frame the abduction as a consensual exit, hoping to persuade the police to drop the charges against Lauren. He believes he is protecting Sam by ensuring he has a stable mother figure.
This is a desperate, incredibly poor legal move. It doesn't absolve Lauren at all. It completely changes the focus of the police investigation onto Drew himself.
It backfires spectacularly. By claiming a prior relationship with Lauren, the police immediately discard the reckless driving fleeing the scene angle, and they jump to a far more sinister possibility.
What's that?
They suspect the 2023 crash was deliberate. Their new working theory is that Drew intended to kill Charlie, Lauren, and the first Sam so he could be with Lauren.
So Drew's confession of a consensual relationship suddenly shifts the potential charge from vehicular manslaughter to murder.
Or serious injury, yes. The police now believe Drew had a motive for murder and used his car as the weapon. They charge him under caution for the potential murder of Charlie Hopwood.
So he tried to take the blame for the abduction to help Lauren, and instead he's facing potential life in prison for a crime far worse than the one he actually committed.
A calculated, premeditated attack. It's a legal nightmare of his own making.
Drew's motivation, however, was also driven by his desire to protect Hope, wasn't it?
It was. He feared that if he confessed the truth about the crash and his cover-up, Hope would be charged with assisting an offender or lying to the police to protect him. It's just deceit nested within self-sacrifice, nested within further deceit.
It's a legal minefield. And it forces Lauren's lawyer, Sarah Kellerman, into an impossible situation when Drew also seeks her counsel.
She correctly identifies the conflict of interest immediately. She cannot act for both of them if their interests diverge.
But Drew insists their interests align the welfare of the child.
He does. But Lauren, finally thinking clearly, realizes Drew's full confession of the crash will endanger Hope. She insists Drew must not reveal the details of the original accident to the police.
And this leads Sarah to devise the final, brilliant, and deeply frustrating legal strategy.
Yes. Since the police have these conflicting, compromised, and contradictory confessions, Hope's initial surrogacy lie, Drew's final murder motive lie, Sarah advises both Drew and Lauren to exercise their right to remain silent.
To answer no comment to every single question.
Exactly. They starve the police of evidence. They essentially use the legal system's own protective mechanisms against the investigation itself.
The coordinated silence of the accused, coupled with the previous lies of the victims, just neutralizes the entire state case.
It's an incredible legal checkmate.
After 8 weeks of this intense legal standoff, Drew under suspicion for murder, Lauren on bail for abduction, the legal system cracks under the pressure of insufficient evidence.
It does. Sarah Kellerman gets the final decision. The senior investigating officer determines there is insufficient evidence to charge Lauren Drew or Hope with a criminal offense.
The charges are withdrawn, just like that.
The competing false narratives and the refusal of the main players to talk just created a legal vacuum. There was nowhere for the prosecution to go.
So Lauren is free. Her bail conditions, reporting to Northolt, sleeping at her mom's, are lifted. She's told she can return to Spain.
Back to her oasis, which now feels attainable again, though it must be fundamentally changed.
And critically, Sam is secure.
Yes. Sarah confirms that because Sam is now stable and healthy, and with a family member, Gabe, providing a safe home, there is no legal standing for authorities to remove him. The threat of foster care or the child protection register is eliminated.
Provided he remains in Gabe and Lauren's care in Spain.
Correct.
Lauren returns to Gabe in Huesca, and we learn more about Gabe's profound commitment to her and Sam.
We do. He gave up his entire life in Mantilla to help them, and his dedication is rooted in his own trauma. He insists he is doing it for Denial, his lost son.
Denial.
It's a beautiful piece of character depth. Denial, a variation of Daniel, means God is my judge. Gabe's actions are driven by his own personal atonement and seeking justice for his own loss. He sees helping Lauren and Sam as his route to healing.
And the healing is tangible, isn't it? Lauren reveals she is 14 weeks pregnant with Gabe's child.
It's a sign of genuine renewal. She suggests naming the baby Daniel if it's a boy. It's a clear nod to Gabe's past and a firm step toward their future, replacing the ghosts of the first Samuel.
She also begins the process of memorializing the devastating past, acknowledging the loss of Charlie and her first Sam.
She does. She still holds the urns containing their ashes, and she plans to scatter them in the bay near Mantilla, but she holds off, recognizing that healing isn't a single event, but a process where feelings have to be allowed to ebb and flow.
The ultimate resolution, however, requires confronting the Dunsmore Ferrises, the biological parents whose lives she irrevocably altered.
They travel to Spain, and they meet Lauren and Gabe at a park near a Snow White house. It's a very unconventional setting for a reunion that is 2 years overdue.
Hope and Drew see their son, Samuel Dunsmore Ferris, for the first time since he was a tiny baby.
And Hope instantly recognizes him, the big blue eyes, the turned-up nose. The emotional connection is undeniable, despite all the time and deceit that separates them.
They recognize the immense challenge ahead of them. Sam is happy, he's healthy, and he's attached to Lauren and Gabe.
So they begin the slow, painful process of reintroduction, taking baby steps. They cooperate with Lauren and Gabe, agreeing to move to Huesca themselves to begin building a relationship.
And crucially, the parents agree to allow Sam to lead the process.
Yes. Recognizing they must earn his trust before they can even think about revealing the complicated truth of his first 2 years.
It's an ending built on compromise, shared trauma, and a collective agreement to move forward without prosecuting the past, at least not legally.
A profound point to note. The source material suggests that the Dunsmore Ferrises now accept this unconventional reality. They know Sam is safe and thriving, and they are willing to relocate their entire lives to integrate back into his.
It's a silent recognition.
It is a silent recognition that, despite Lauren's crime, she ultimately provided the stability Sam needed while they were reeling from their own chaos.
What a sprawling, morally ambiguous story this is. Our deep dive has unearthed such profound layers of complexity that go far beyond a simple abduction case.
The first key takeaway for you, the learner, has to be the critical importance of legal compliance in life-changing events, specifically surrogacy.
Right. The legal vulnerability.
Vulnerability inherent in failing to secure a parental order. The fact that Hope and Drew were, despite being the intended biological parents, at risk because they had not formalized that status, it created this massive exploitable loophole that Lauren leveraged.
And secondly, we saw the devastating long shadow of unaddressed trauma. Lauren's profound guilt over the crash, compounded by her complete amnesia, gave her this perverse motivation replacement.
And that transformed her into a terrifyingly calculated stalker and abductor.
And finally, the entire truth. The fact that Drew caused a fatal accident and fled, the fact that Lauren stalked them, Hope's initial lies, it was eventually forced to the surface, not by moral awakening or confession, but solely by the external pressure of a police investigation that threatened to imprison everyone.
It really was.
What stands out most profoundly is how necessary critical thinking is when you're analyzing these types of narratives. Every fact we received, from Drew's initial surrogacy lie to his final, desperate, false murder confession, was filtered through a powerful lens of self-preservation.
Human beings will lie, even spectacularly, to avoid the true consequences of their actions.
And that leads to the ultimate irony of this whole case. Despite the gravity of the potential charges of abduction, murder, assisting an offender, the entire legal pursuit collapsed.
It did. Because both Drew and Lauren simply exercised their fundamental right to remain silent, answering no comment to the police's most difficult questions.
Which raises the final provocative thought for you to consider. Did that mandated legal silence, the refusal to testify, truly secure Sam's welfare by allowing him to gently transition into a family that had survived its own trauma?
Or did it merely bury the definitive truth, the full, unpunished cost of Drew's actions in the fatal crash forever beneath the surface of this new, unconventionally co-parenting family dynamic in Wesca?
If the full truth about the first Samuel's death is the foundation upon which the second Samuel's future is built, what happens when Sam, years from now, starts asking questions about the secrets that allowed his parents, biological and chosen, to coexist?
What secrets remain in that new Spanish dynamic?
Food for thought indeed. Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.